What is going on, IF Warriors? So today we are going to talk about what to do if intermittent fasting isn't working anymore for you. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. See, this is a question that I get a lot. I actually get this message to me a lot. Hey, what do I do? This intermittent fasting thing is not working for me. What do I do now? Almost as if they're looking for me to tell them, to reassure them to continue to do intermittent fasting, to find some sort of an intermittent fasting regimen that will do something for them, even though they told me I did this, I did the 16-8, I did the 24, I did the 23-1, still nothing. When intermittent fasting isn't working for you, number one, you do have to figure out what exactly do you mean when you say that. Are you not losing weight? Which I think is, generally speaking, that's probably what people are talking about when they tell me it doesn't work. Because there are people that use it for energy purposes, for the feeling of focus. As your norepinephrine goes up, your fight or flight hormones go up, and that actually increases focus because your body thinks that it needs to hunt and kill its food, and it needs to heighten this. These are artifacts that linger from our past, from our prehistoric past, or not prehistoric, but our, back in the days when we were cavemen, where we had to hunt and kill for our food. The body was adaptable and would increase and elevate things like focus and energy, just to make sure that we could pull that off, right? Of course, and with modern technology and modern food, we've kind of moved away from that. So habits have been built and formed away from it, but it doesn't mean that it isn't there internally. And if you tap into it, it will trigger. So the energy portion that some people use it for, rarely do I ever get anybody talking to me about that portion not working, or that's the portion that they want to work. Normally, it's the weight loss portion. And what I always tell people is you cannot hang your hat solely on the intermittent fasting protocol being the magic bullet that will do every and anything for you. Intermittent fasting on its own will not, I repeat, will not pull off the weight loss that you are looking for on its own. Now, what will happen if you just do intermittent fasting? Because of the limitations of eating, because you are creating these, what I call invisible walls, where you cannot eat past this time, or you cannot eat before this time. You could only eat around this time frame here. Because of those invisible walls, you almost inevitably reduce your caloric intake. But that's the key word. You almost inevitably reduce your caloric intake. Do not fool yourself to believe that because you are not counting calories and you are eating fairly the same types of food that you ate before, because there's always a misconception with, I got to eat healthy. That's the reason why I'm gaining weight. I'm just not eating healthy. Then they do intermittent fasting. They don't eat quote unquote healthy. They eat the things that they ate before and they still lose weight. Makes them think, the magic is in intermittent fasting. But really, the magic is in the caloric reduction that just happened organically, because you can't graze, you can't eat past these invisible walls, which is outside of your eating time frame. So it isn't so much that that intermittent fasting in and of itself is doing this because you're not paying attention to calories. You're simply just not paying attention to calories, but also losing weight because you have created a system that helps facilitate a reduction in calories without actually having to pay attention to calorie consumption. And we've seen this so much in studies. We've seen it in studies where people eat ad libitum, which means there is no limit to eating. And there's a control group that also eats ad libitum. However, the group that eats ad libitum in the intermittent fasting group always, almost 95% of the time, loses more weight than the control group that's allowed to eat ad libitum, because they can eat throughout the whole day. There isn't really something that kind of prevents them from overeating. Meanwhile, the intermittent fasting group tends to undereat because of the limitations that they've set with the structure that comes with intermittent fasting. So if you're doing this, right, if you're actually following this protocol and it's working for you and then stops working, normally, if you haven't paid attention to your calories and you've reached this pivotal point where it's not working anymore, but you're doing all of the intermittent fasting regimens, it is more than likely because you are overeating, even though you're doing intermittent fasting. And this is very likely because when you reduce weight, you're going to also have to reduce calories. So if it's working here, it's working here, it's working here, there will be a point where you hit a quote unquote wall, but that wall that you're hitting is simply that you haven't paid attention this entire time, and now your body and the amount of calories that you're consuming within that intermittent fasting system has come to a head. It's right there now, and you're not going to lose any more weight. So you have to pay attention to your calorie intake. Now, this will say, a lot of people would take this and say, well, what's the point of intermittent fasting? First of all, that structure is a major point of intermittent fasting. I've said this before and I'll say it again. We are not robots. It is not easy to just go boop, 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 eat this many calories and now you will lose this much weight. Make sure to reduce this much calories based off of the weight reduction insert. And then we just do it. Like we're robots. We're not. So this intermittent fasting structure helps you control your calories. For a lot of people, they could not control their calories until they interjected an intermittent fasting system. But also, intermittent fasting does help facilitate fat loss or fat oxidation, fat burning. And we've seen this on a 24-hour scale, not just, half of the day and then the rest of it. We've seen this on a 24-hour scale because fatty acids, the body fat that we store, is used as ketones. It replaces the glucose that gets depleted when you fast. Ketones are used to replace that energy for your brain. And because of this process, you are burning more fat predominantly. So you remember, the body has glycogen, the body has muscle, the body has body fat, all of which carry calories, and your body can break it down. So the calorie partitioning in terms of what your body chooses to burn to energize you is important as well if you're focusing on trying to burn fat specifically. So you want to be fat burning predominantly, and that's something that intermittent fasting helps you do, but it will not do it. Mark my words, it will not do it if the calorie deficit is not there. Now, in the event that you do intermittent fasting, and because you're doing intermittent fasting, it causes you to overeat and you're not able to lose weight with intermittent fasting or stick to being at a lower calorie, at a caloric deficit because of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is not for you. It's not for every single person. If it doesn't work for you, you need to find a system that works for you. For some reason, some people can eat multiple times a day, and that allows them to control for calories. Eating 6 times a day lets them control calories. Personally, I wouldn't be able to do it in terms of how cumbersome that would be and how time consuming that would be. And also just the way I operate, the way I, work, it's easier for me to control everything if I have it in a smaller eating window. But that's me. It doesn't necessarily mean that can happen to you. So that real possibility of intermittent fasting not working for you is a thing, and you have to look into that. But it's only if it hasn't worked for you and you're continuously overeating all the time, that's the only time I would tell you to look into that and make sure that intermittent fasting is working for you. But you have to be honest with yourself. If you're doing intermittent fasting Monday, Tuesday, but you're not doing it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're expecting something, like, be honest. You could say that you're doing it, but if you're not actually doing it, you can't blame intermittent fasting when you're not actually doing intermittent fasting. But if you are and you're overeating, try to look at other diets. There are so many other diets that you could do out there that can help you. Hopefully this video was insightful for you guys. I always like to break down this premise because a lot of people think that there is a magic kind of bullet thing going on with intermittent fasting, when yes, it does something biologically that helps you facilitate or partition the calorie burn to push out more of the fatty acids of the body fat. But there's more to just doing intermittent fasting. There's more that's happening behind the scenes that some people just don't realize. Hopefully this video has helped you guys, and of course, as always, I'll see you in the next one.